Fear is the mind killer. A famous quote from the Dune book and movie series. And it is a very true statement, but I want to touch on first the benefits of having fear before I delve more into this topic. Fear isn't something that you should be afraid of experiencing, as ironic as that sounds. Fear has a lot of benefits as well to us human beings, especially. I mean, going back in time, in terms of evolution, in terms of every other animal that exists now, fear is part of our fight or flight mode. You know, we get scared, or an animal gets scared because it may sense imminent danger, a threat to its life in some ways. And so that's when fight or flight mode kicks in. They either try and fight their way out of a situation, or they run. But for us as human beings with our complex minds, fear in itself is a lot more complex in that way. You know, we may feel fear before we go on stage to perform, be that music or another form of entertainment. We may feel fear before we do a public presentation. We may feel fear before we go into a mixed martial arts fight or a boxing fight. But fear in that way is very beneficial, as it makes you more alert to the situation in that time. And it allows you to be more aware of what you're doing. And it helps you keep your guard up. And so we do need fear in our lives, because fear is what, in a lot of cases, can help us perform to the best of our abilities in whatever situation we're in. And the fear becomes non-existent after the fact, after the situation is concluded. And we go in our minds, oh, that actually wasn't so bad. I don't know why I got so scared for. But obviously, and this is a main point, you get scared or you have fear when something is important to you. When something is important to you with regards to, say, your career, your relationship with someone, your health, the well-being of others, a whole plethora of things. The reason why we have fear most of the time is because we care about something, or something is important to us. And when there is a risk involved, when you may have to make an important decision in your life, in whatever aspect of life it may be, then that's when the fear in us comes out even more. And we tend to think about things more and ruminate about things more and try and think of the best possible way of making a choice or getting through a situation. But that's where fear is a double-edged sword. Okay? On one hand, fear can be good. It can help you perform to the best of your abilities. But on the other hand, fear can also be a shackle. It can also be something that ties you down. It can be something that constricts you from being able to make important choices, or from being able to perform your best. Because fear, on the other hand, can also be paralyzing. If you allow the fear to ruminate in your mind for too long, the fear can become paralyzing. It could be anxiety inducing. And you'll just be replaying the situation over and over and over in your head until the time comes, whatever the situation may be, until you get an answer, or until you actually process the fear and process the situation before it happens, which is my main point. If you're in a situation in your life right now where the fear is very much anxiety inducing and paralyzing to yourself mentally and physically, then it would be very much in your best intentions to process that fear instead. And don't feel bad for being afraid of a situation or from making an important decision. Okay? Like I said, if it's important to us, then there's no shame in feeling fear. If the fear is stopping you from going about your day-to-day life, or it's just, causing a feeling of tightness in your chest, or like just the same constant ruminating thoughts going in your mind over and over again, that's where you need to put your foot down and start processing the fear instead. Okay, there's numerous ways you can do that. Okay, you can write it out in a journal, however much you need to write out, however many times you need to write it out. Just write it out. Just get it onto something. Get these thoughts, feelings, and emotions out of your mind and off your chest and onto paper, or onto whatever form of writing that you may have at your disposal. And do what you want with it afterwards. If you write on a piece of paper, you don't want to look at it again, put it in a shredder or rip it up, chuck it in the bin, and then that's done. Okay? But it's not just journaling, it's also keeping physically active, going to the gym. Okay? That's one of the best ways of processing things like this, processing stress, processing anxiety, processing fear, right? It's not to say that the fear will go away, but it is a good avenue to channel this emotional energy pent up in you, this physical energy pent up in you, to release it out of your body through means of weightlifting, through means of martial arts training, through means of running, swimming, etc., etc. Another way of doing it is to talk to someone, friends, family. If you feel like you need to book yourself in for a therapy session, no shame in that. Not a problem with that at all. Why not? If you don't feel like you have an avenue to talk to someone about it within your family or your circle of friends, then there's no shame in going for a therapy session and talking it out with a stranger. Sometimes that is actually the better option, having a third person perspective of someone outside of your social circle. It does help, it does help. And also just breaking down the fear for yourself, like, when you write it down, break it down. Break down the key points. Break down why the fear is actually much bigger than what it should be. Why, with your particular situation, it's actually not as bad as what your mind is making it out to be. Because that's the amazing thing about the mind. Our minds are so complex. Some people can tend to live in the present a lot more and not think about this stuff too much. Some people, they tend to think a lot more than others. And so, it could be a type of self-awareness, if you'd like to call it that. But then that self-awareness is also a double-edged sword, because that can also cause you to think about certain things in situations a lot more than what you should do. And all you're trying to do is help yourself. But like I said, being that self-aware can be a hindrance in itself sometimes. And that's where you have to find a balance in that regard. But that is the main point. generally speaking, is to process your fear. Process your fear. Don't just let it sit there. Don't just let your mind think about it all the time. You have to be able to get it out of yourself somehow. Otherwise, the more you allow the fear to fester in your mind and in your heart and in your chest, the bigger the fear will become. And you don't need to let that fear become bigger than what it actually is, because that's the problem. We tend to allow our anxieties and our insecurities and our fears to become a lot more than what they actually are, and we give them more space in our heads and in our bodies than what they actually deserve. Okay, that's just the point I'm trying to make. With that being said, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and share my video. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy my content. If you have any questions or you disagree with some of the points I've made, feel free to comment down below in my video. If you would like to message me more directly, feel free to go to my Instagram page, Staring Tea in the Crazy World, and I'll be more than happy to have a lovely conversation there too. With that being said, see you in the next one.